Welcome to the Unstoppable Profit Podcast. This podcast will give independent insurance agents all of the tools to grow your business and live life on your terms. Wherever you are today, if you're starting with nothing or well on your way to the success you desire, with the right people, processes, and promotions in place, you will be unstoppable. And now I'd like to introduce your host, Mike Stromsoe.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Unstoppable Profit Podcast. I don't have any words to describe the pleasure and the honor that I feel right now by having this, I shall consider him an icon on the podcast today, but I am privileged. We are all privileged to have Mr. David Gabrielsen from Capital Premium Finance on the podcast today. David, welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. And thank you for carving some time out of your busy schedule to be here.
Sure.
It started sometime within the last 12 months. Super privileged on my end to be invited to spend time with the Capital Premium Finance team. And I've gotten to go know a number of the team members over the last 12 months. And I cannot be more impressed with the culture, the quality of people, just their outlook and view of doing business and everything about them. It's just, to use an older term, top shelf. They're just awesome, incredible people. And we were talking before we got started about, because it's a business partnership. It's not about, business relationships are important, but this is a business partnership endeavor, and that's the way you view things.
Correct.
And I think that's fantastic. And I am also, based on my 45 plus years in business and being around the circles, as much as you have a large team, and by the way, your team is what, 100 and how many people?
166.
166. And I'm not surprised for a second that you know how many. And you probably know most of their names and a lot about their families, because that's the kind of leader that you are. And I can't admire that enough. But ultimately, leadership starts at some point. And I know it's because of your leadership, and talking to Matt and to Ben and to Brandon and to Harrison and to Samuel, it all points right back to David. So you've got a very special story. And just in the time that we have together today, you've been kind enough to be able to share, being willing to share some of that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your investment. And if you haven't connected with David out on LinkedIn, by the way, David Gabrielsen, go ahead and spell the last name, David, just for those who need it.
Gabrielsen.
Sen. Fantastic. I'm glad I did it that way. Yeah, connect with David on LinkedIn. He puts out posts that are very, not only insightful, but they're moving and they're real. And it helps you think through things, not only from a professional standpoint, but a personal standpoint. So thank you for that, continuing to do that. And your grandson's still doing good.
My grandson's back to normal.
Fantastic. And that's one of the recent stories. So fantastic stuff. Because I know in your world, it's family first.
Absolutely. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here, 100%. So I agree with you. So take us back to the beginning of Capital Premium Finance, and I'll kind of let you take it from there.
Well, thanks, Mike, for letting me be here. I appreciate it. I tell people I'm just a good old boy from Idaho. In 1983, I was 27 years old, and I had $40,000 cash. And I went to the bank and got a $75,000 line of credit. But just before that, my dad showed me how to finance premiums. And so I just kind of had a general view of how to do that. But my story actually comes back even further, what I call aha moments in your life. And my aha moments prepared me to do capital, but I didn't know it at the time. And the first one was when I was 8 years old. My grandpa Gabrielsen, my last name's Gabrielsen, obviously, gave me a $2 bill. And I held on to that $2 bill because it was like moon dust. It was just like the heavens opened. It was the coolest thing. And I had no idea why I fell in love with it. But I got the $2 bill and I held on to it, for 20 years. And now we, use capital as unique as a $2 bill, service is unique as a $2 bill, and we hand out, about $250,000 a year now, $2 bills. But that was the first aha moment, because I didn't know that, 20 years later, I'd be starting a finance company. The next moment's when I was in 9th grade, and in Idaho, you could drive when you're 14. And I don't recommend that, but the farm boys had to drive.
Right.
And so I got to drive because I was in the city, and my mom asked me to pick her up from her OBGYN, which was across town. And so I drove over. I was always accommodating, and because I love to drive, it was fun. But I pulled into the parking lot, and my mom got in the car, and she looked at me and she said, "David, I've got to tell you something." And I looked at her and said, "Mom, I'm in 9th grade. What are you going to tell me?" And she said, "That guy," meaning her OBGYN, "dedicates his life to his job because babies aren't born between 8 and 5. And I looked at Mom and I said, "I have no idea why you're telling me this. It's completely confusing. You have to dedicate your life to your job." Okay. So nothing happened. It went. And another experience I had when I was 18, my dad kept telling me, "You got to spend money to make money." And I said, "Dad, I don't understand that. Does that mean I take a girl out on a date, and spend $250 and the next night she's out with somebody else? Or what exactly are you meaning?" And so he took me to a ball game and he said, "Do you see the players? Do you see this stadium? The owner had to pay for all this before the first pitch." And he goes, "You have to spend money to make money." And so I just had these things happen to me in my life as I was growing up towards the time that, I was 18 years old. And when I was in high school, I failed most of my classes, or just barely passed. But the classes I took, I excelled in, was bookkeeping. I just thirsted after it. And then 10 key, I taught myself how to 10 key. But all of it was marching towards capital, and I didn't know it. And so when I graduated from high school, after I'd taken typing classes, and I could type better than the teacher, and I just had a kind of a business mind. I bought my first house when I was 18, and I just liked the business aspect. Well, I didn't go to college. I just went for a quarter up at Rick's College in 1974, and I met this beautiful Southern California girl. Well, the reason I had to meet her is because her dad was an entrepreneur, and she knows what it's like to never, be home, or you have to go out at night to fix stuff. And so it kind of worked. Well, I just met her. She didn't like me, and I liked her. And then I left on a 2-year service mission for our church, and I came back, and I went to another quarter of school back down to BYU, and I went there for a quarter, but I only got into BYU because they let me into Rick's because I was Mormon and I had a heartbeat. That's all you had to do to get in. I didn't really qualify. I never took the ACT, but anyway, I got into BYU, and lo and behold, I met Lorianne again, out in front of the Wilkinson Center there. And she just said, "Well, David, let's go play tennis." And, I didn't want to play with the tug strings in my heart because I really liked her. And so anyway, we started playing tennis, and because I met her in a tennis class at Rick's, and that was our common theme. But anyway, we ended up getting married. And her dowry was, you got to have 10 kids, and you got to be okay with that. And I'm like, well, whatever, and I got to give her a beach house, in Newport Beach, because that was her thing. And I said, well, perfect. But so anyway, from the time I was 22 and till I was 27, I had jobs that I absolutely hated. And I was being taught by what I didn't like. So when my dad, all my cousins, I have 20 cousins on the Gabrielsen side. 19 out of the 20 cousins all have a doctorate, bachelor's, master's, everybody. And the 120th was me. And I just didn't fit the mold. And so my mom and my dad were really worried about me. And my dad said, "Well, you just got to get into sales because, that's all you can do, and start a business." So when I was 27 and I was living in Seattle, and I was working for a chemical company, and I found out that my boss made $40,000 a year, and he had worked 40 years for the company. And I thought, I can't have 10 kids and make $40,000. So I quit my job in Seattle and I moved back to Boise where I grew up. And my dad showed me how to finance premiums, and I understood how to leverage. I understand you borrow money at one rate, you put it out at another. The insurance policy was the collateral. I understood that. So when my dad taught me that, it was like the heavens open, the moon's open. I mean, it was just like that great aha moment again. And I knew I could do it, but I had to start at ground zero, which I did. And so I had my 40,000 from my sale of my home in Seattle. I had the $75,000 line of credit. I went to my first agency, in fear and trembling, hoping that they would say yes. And I went there and I convinced them, I had all these kids, and I think they went in the back room and said, man, this guy's weird. Let's give him a try. And that was literally about it. But I was being groomed again. But I knew that I wanted to do that. And so I had to pay the price in 1983 because, I was just starting out and I can't spend all my money. So I had a dairy job from 1 to 7 in the morning. I was shaving ice, with my family on the weekend. And I was keeping books because I was a good bookkeeper for my dad's apartments. But I was saving all my money in capital. And I was just starting. I just went to my first agent. And then I went to my second agent. Well, I ran out of money because I only had $115,000 to lend out. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but I had probably, you would go to the second agency and they say, well, who are you doing business with? Well, I called on the biggest agency in Idaho. I had no clue they were that big. But I could say their name. And after I said their name, that I'm working with them, that it was say no more because they were really popular. And there was a few other agencies that I had, but I didn't have to say much because I had the big boys, so to speak. And so I obviously ran out of money. Well, then my brother was my oldest brother was working for Exxon in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, was a millionaire and a big executive for Exxon. And I called him up and said, Joe, I got this great thing going. Would you like to lend me some money? And so he lent me $1 million. Well, he called me up one night and said, David, I'm being transferred to New York and I don't want to live in New York. I don't want to raise my family there. I'll quit my job and I'll come to work for you. Well, here's a double master's guy coming to work for me who, had two quarters of college, but I had this big deal. And then we committed that $1 million to the bank, and the bank gave us $10 million credit facility. So the credit facility is our umbilical cord. And so now we had that, and we were just able to, to get, more and more agencies, finance more and more premiums. And so, the idea with my brother is Joe said, I'll get the money, you get the business. And so that's what we did. And that was the start of capital. That's how we did it. I started in 83. My brother came in 85, and we just went along. And in contrast, we just completed our 40th year. We do business now with over 4,000 agencies. My credit facility is $2 billion, and we're the 4th largest finance company in the United States.
Congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you. I mean, obviously a lot's happened in those 40 years, but that's the genesis of capital, how I started it. It's been a roller coaster of faith. My wife would nurse the kids. We have 10 of them currently. But as we were, first started, she'd nurse the kids and hand them to me, and I'd be sitting in the rocking chair burping these kids saying, how am I going to pay for these kids?
Mm-hmm.
And the spirit just kept telling me, just keep going, David, just keep going. I promise you everything will be okay. Just keep going. So that's what I did. I just kept going through the heartaches of having to learn, the business, insurance and fraud go together. I had to learn how to get frauded. I had to learn how to make my mistakes, because success and mistakes come right together.
Mm-hmm.
They're companions. And, I had to learn from those. And, a lot of my, the things that I went through, a large agency in Idaho frauded us, a few years into it. And it was really hard. I lost a lot of money. And I just remember sitting in bed thinking, I just don't want to do this anymore. This isn't fair. It's not right. And the Spirit basically said to me, and my wife came in the room and said, you have two choices here. You can either learn from your mistakes, or you can sit in bed and feel sorry for yourself. I recommend you do the first one. And so I got out of bed and I just, decided to learn from my mistakes. Life isn't always fair. It's not fair. And I just started all over. I just started again. And in the meantime, we had a lot of the business in Idaho because that's where I started it. And Utah was a big market, for us. And there's more people in Salt Lake County than there is in the whole state of Idaho. And so that was a good place to live. I moved down there in 1988. We had the majority of the business in Idaho at that point, southern Idaho. But you're talking, less than 1 million people. But I knew the concept. I learned through my mistakes, and we moved down to Utah in 1988 with 6 kids in a van, and my brother stayed in Idaho, and to do the bookkeeping there, because he got the lines of credit, and we got our line of credit up to about 25 million at the time, and I came down to Utah, and within 10 years we had 95% of the business in Utah, and it just took day-to-day, hand-to-hand combat of visiting agencies, and you talked about relationships. Agencies are going to finance their premium with someone. I want them to do it with me. And so you're going to be kind, you're going to be nice, you're going to take them out to lunch, you're going to do ball games. And that's all good and fine, but you have to build the relationship. And I don't want to be a vendor. I want to have a relationship. I want to be a partner. And so once you get to know people, they start to build the relationships. They trust you. And that's that trust that you build. That's what you create the relationships with. And so I always try to, get to know their families. And then the big key is when you can reach a relationship with people where you care about their success as much as you care about your success, that's the key. Because all this other stuff's just stuff, making money and the process of premium financing and all that, that's fine. But I've had my best relationships with the agencies because they trust you. I trust them. You are going, like anything, you're going to have problems and challenges, and you've got to be able to talk about that. And the secret to your company is how you solve your problems, because you're going to have problems. And then when you have a good relationship with people, and you want them to win as bad as you want to win, and they're successful. When the agencies are successful, I'm successful. That's how I looked at it. And so I was able to, build the relationships and have hundreds of agencies into the thousands of agencies. Mike, you'll have to stop me because I'll talk forever. I love what I do, but
good. Keep it going.
Well, I can just give you the history of how I did it. And so in 2000, obviously, you're living by faith, and Y2K was going to come, and would our computers convert over, and all this stuff. And my dad always kept telling me the right people will show up at the right time. And I started having computer people, and they would help. And so I got to 2005, and my credit facility was at 35 million. And my brother came to me and said, David, I don't want to do this anymore. I want out. I just don't want to do this. We have to personally guarantee everything. I'm a multimillionaire. I don't need the money. I want out. And he told me, David, I want 10 million for my half the company. Well, I had no clue how to buy my brother out, not any, because I just didn't have that experience. And so the interesting part is that I went to my wife's brother, who was an investment banker, a double master's in finance, and a private equity guy. And I went to him and I said, Scott, my brother wants to be bought out, and I don't know how to do it. And he said, David, I've been waiting 25 years for you to come to me. I want to be your partner. I know how to buy your brother out. So my brother and I negotiated, and in 2005, I bought my brother out for $7 million. Well, remember, my dad said you got to spend money to make money. Right. I was thinking that the $250 for date night with the ladies was really good. But now right. I just spent $7 million, and now I got a home, I had a mortgage at home and a car payment and, 10 kids. And now I've got a a big debt because I
A
borrowed a
note,
lot
yeah.
of money. But I was living by faith. Just keep going, David. Just keep going.
Just keep
You know,
going.
you have to dedicate your life to your job because, you know, it's you. You are your guarantee. You are the one that makes the money. But Heavenly Father gives you these instruments and helps you to learn to run companies because he's going to bring people your direction to help you grow your company. And so now I brought in Scott, and we were there, and I think we were at 35 million at the time as far as outstandings from the bank. And then we got up to 50 million. And the bank I was with, Wells Fargo, said, David, we can't give you any more money. You're not rich enough, because I had to put $1 in for every 10 they gave me. And so I was like, oh my gosh. Well, 2 weeks before that, Wells Fargo threw their ultimatum to me. Well, I'd never missed a payment. I never did anything. I was one of the largest loans at Wells Fargo in the Western United States. And they said, and I said, I can't believe you're not going to give me any more money, because I'm calling on 10 agencies a day, hoping to get 1 or 2, and I might get 10. And so we had just got introduced to a place called Colonnade, which is kind of like a real estate broker, but they're a premium finance broker, and they know the big boys in the market, and there's only 5 of them in the U.S. that will purchase notes. And so Scott went to Chicago and met with them, and he called me up at midnight and said, "Great news, David. Great news. We found 5 banks. All 5 of them will give us unlimited money, but the thing is, to get the ticket into the game, you have to have a $50 million credit facility, and that's how much they're going to write the minimum check out." I was at 50 million. Actually, I was at 49,999, 999. I said, Scott, I'll put the penny in. We'll go to the 50 million. So, you know, what was the chances of Wells Fargo cutting me off and this new bank coming in and unlimited funds, and I didn't have to put money in anymore? Because see, I qualified. I had to qualify. And like anything in business, you have to qualify. You have to run your marathons. You have to do your push-ups. You have to know what you're doing. You have to learn your business. Well, you know, I was in, you know, my 17th year, and, you know, I was at 50 million. And so then I hooked up with these new banks, and, you know, things progress. You know, I'm still living by faith. You know, I'm expanding, going to different places, and then I go to a large cluster, not a cluster group, but an aggregate group, and they happen to be the largest in the United States. And I walked in, and they said, David, we want to do business with you, and you know, you're a good guy. I like your family values, and you know, and all this. And they said, yes, we want to do business with you. And that was in, you know, 2009, and that made me nationwide at that point.
But think about what you just said, and I want to make sure everybody heard what you just said, because I heard it. They wanted to do business with you, David. Why?
Because they liked how integrous we were, and we had a good relationship with them. I had done business with some of their aggregate, or their aggregate group, and they gave references. You know, the guys in Idaho and Utah would call up their main office and say, yeah, Capital they're really good. They, you know, we know them. They're integrity guys. They're, you know, they're straight shooters. They're hard workers, and you know, they're not perfect, but they're good guys. And so I had, you know, like I said, I'd run my marathons and done my push-ups.
Right there. Boom. I mean,
right.
You know, you attract exactly what you are.
Exactly.
And who you've become. And you had become that person, but the word about who David and the company was out there in that aggregator group, as an example. Yes, you've done your push-ups. Yes, you've run your marathons, but you've also continued consistently. And I've just learned that the number one reason people don't get what they want personally or professionally is lack of consistency. So you consistently have been that type of person of integrity and everything else, and that gets out. But they decided to do business with you because of who you are as a person and a company. And so I could not second or agree with that enough. I mean, just here we are more than a decade later, getting to know your people. It permeates throughout the company. You as an integrity-filled company people who you can build a partnership with and have that relationship, but a partnership relationship in business and the personal relationship as well. I mean, the things that, Matt and Ben, when I really first, you may not know this, we were in a very small room together, talking about some very maybe personal things one night over dinner, but we got to know each other super, super well. And that just, it didn't surprise me, the fact that these guys are real. I mean, these are real guys with real matters, and they're transparently willing to share. It just, I'm like, I want to know more, right? And so that's, I think, how we got to know each other, and it's just fantastic. So congratulations, on
Thank you.
keep doing your push-ups. What would you say to anybody who might be either watching or listening to this podcast? Because the majority of these people are business people, independent insurance agents, and related, and they too run across situations where they, shall we say, fail, or they encounter some tough times. And I know you said, just keep going, just keep going. You said that a couple times, but they might be in a different mindset for whatever reason. What would you say to those people to encourage them to just keep going?
Well, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And, the tough guys, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And, when you have passion and you know that what you want to do, you're going to learn by your mistakes. And then you learn from your mistakes and you don't repeat them. And so you just keep going, because that's what the Spirit tells you to do. And that's what makes you happy. And then you'll be led by the Spirit, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to make friends with God, because you got all the responsibility, and you're gonna need that help. And it's a big load to run a company. It's really hard. But you have the right people with you, and there's nothing more rewarding. And so it's like the shoe dog guy, the Phil Knight. He said, I absolutely hate what I do, but I absolutely love it, and I would do it again. But it's hard, and as there's days I just hate it. But it's like eating marshmallows. If you eat a few, it's great. You eat too many, you get sick. Well, it's the same thing in business. You just have to pace yourself, and you have to learn by your mistakes. It's like watching grass grow. It doesn't come fast. I didn't get to 4,000 agencies in 10 days. I didn't pull a lever in Las Vegas and got wealth. None of that. It's day to day, hand to hand combat, praying to God for help, but you've got to take care of your family. But you are going to pay a massive price that no one else is going to pay. And he that's willing to pay the biggest price will win. But you still live within the white lines of the game. You still work hard. You will out earn your competition. You will outwork your competition. And from 2005 to 2017, I left on a Monday and came home on a Friday. I've been to all 50 states multiple times, and I visited agencies. They wanted to see who you were. I had maids, I had people clean my pool, I did all that stuff. I didn't have time to do that, but I paid the price. But my wife came from an entrepreneurial background. She understood how that worked. We were a partnership. You have to, if she worked at the library, it may have been tough. Open up at 8, leave at 5. That's not me. That's not how I run, and that's not how entrepreneurs run. But you have to find balance. You have to be home at night. You've got to be at your kids' games. I tell my employees, if you don't go to your kids' games, I will. It'll be really embarrassing. If you don't take your wife out for her anniversary, I will, and it's going to be real awkward.
Yeah.
So don't put me in that
I love
position.
that.
Yeah, but you still have to do that, and you've got to take vacation time. You've got to do all that. You've got to find balance, and then in turn, Heavenly Father will help you and guide you, because now you've got 166 families depending on you, and He will bless you and help you, and you've got to constantly, fight that balance of being home, being at work, and when you're home, you're present. And my wife's really good about telling me when I'm not present. So, it's that type of thing. But, for somebody starting out, you're going to pay a price, follow your passion, because you will find it. And your life will be miserable until you do what you're supposed to do. But that you're going to be pushed towards that. And you might have the most miserable job in the world. Well, there's a reason why, because there's another job waiting for you. But, that's how it works. It's persistence, it's partnerships. It's getting people to trust you. It's doing the right thing every day. It's, you know, saying you're sorry when you make mistakes. It's all of that combined. But, you know, if it's easy, everybody's going to do it. It's not easy, but it's the most rewarding thing. And you know, you wouldn't want it any different way.
For anybody out there who might be wondering, a team of 166 people, and I know there's probably multiple answers, but what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say, David, what's the key of leading a team of 166 people? What's the most important thing?
Well, you know, your employees are your most important asset, and you're as good as your weakest employee. And
Boom.
you know, they have come to you for a reason. They need a job. My job is to give people hope and to give them a job. And you know, you have to qualify. But when you treat your employees with respect and partners, and you know, look out for their best interests as well, you know, then they will bring loyalty to you. And you know, and that's what you want. You need to pay people as much as you can pay them. You've got to live the golden rule with your employees. You know, we all cry together, we laugh together, we mourn together, we bury moms and dads, we birth babies, we all do all that in this together. And so when we work together and try to promote families, you know, no other success will compensate for failure in the home. And so I've always told my you know, my employees, you need to put family first, and things will work out. Now it's, you know, but being the lead of the home and providing, it's a close second. There's no first and second. It's so close because your job is to provide, to bring money home to your family and help me, you know, in that endeavor, because I want capital to make as much money as it can so we can get as much money into these kids, you know, homes and raise these kids so that they can have a chance. And so it's a business, and it's a family. And you know, I have a lot of my children that work for me, that they know that, you know, you have to work just as hard as anybody else. There's no freebies here, and we're going to work hard, but we are going to take as much money home to our families and to these, you know, moms and dads at home that need money and kids. And that's my goal. If you can instill that in your employees, that my goal is to get as much money to your family as we can, you find real fast how loyal they'll be.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great philosophy. Thank you for sharing. And of course it's not perfect. And I know I heard you say that among a couple of times, but you know, I'm doing a study right now in another company that has a lot of the same values as you do, a lot of them eerily similar, but far from perfect. And things have never been perfect, but there's been bumps on the road, but they fought through them, fought through tragedy and everything else. So congratulations. So
well, you know,
if somebody likes what they hear and they want to learn more about Capital Premium Finance, and we didn't plan this at all, what should they do? It's capitalpremiumfinance.net. Just go to the website. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it's there. It just has a lot of our stuff. There's a video, an 8-minute video that shows how I started it. It's outdated. It's 8 years old now. I've lost more hair and gained more weight, but you know, it's, you know, that happens too.
It does. But you're in good shape from my view. So
yeah, that's
Capital, go ahead.
Capitalpremiumfinancing.net.
Oh, is it financing?
Capital. I'm not sure of our website because I leave that up to somebody else, but I think it's capitalpremium.net.
Well, let me just get to the bottom of this. I will find out so we can get all of our, there it is. Draper, Utah, right?
Yep.
It's capitalpremium.net. Capital, CAPITAL premium.net. That's their website. So just go to the website and learn more. And I know you've got a fantastic team that does a great job in helping people learn about, you know, their options out there in the world. But sure. I will reiterate, the one thing that you will get is a partnership. You will get a partnership with a real person. You won't become a number, and they will continue to build that partnership and that relationship with you, and you'll always know where you stand. Which in today's world, especially with technology and the advancement of technology, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't expect you to understand this, but there's programs out there like HeyGen, HeyGen, which is an AI tool out there, David, where you can put your own photo up and you can make videos and you see the photo of Mike or David, but it's not really that person. It's
Yeah, it's scary.
right. It's a different world out there, but
Yeah.
with Capital Premium, you will get a real person. So
Yeah.
David Gabrielsen, thank you. Thank you for sharing just a little bit about your story. I've
Absolutely.
heard the feedback on your longer story and your sharing, which just likely goes into a lot of more about the wins and bigger than that, the lessons,
Mhm.
which we call the lessons, the failures in business and in life. And it's far from perfect, but when you just keep going and you have faith and you
That's
have
right.
that.
You just keep going and you have faith and you care more. And when you own a company, you're going to care more. I can, and then that's a lot of the stuff is you're talking to the owner. I care. I'm here. I can't be everywhere, but I do care. And I hope that my employees share that same vision. And I think they do. I do send out a weekly um, uh, inspirational thing about how to start from zero to $1 billion financing company, and I've done it now for 53 weeks. If you'd like me to be a part of it, just send me your email. My email is my initials: D as in David, F as in Freeman, G as in Gabrielsen, at capitalpremium.net. So it's DFG at capitalpremium.net. I'd be happy to put you on that letter that I send out. I really try hard to be real. I have thousands of people that follow that, and I try to be open. I cry. You got. I like it when people are open and real, and I like reading about other entrepreneurs and hearing about them and their struggles, so that I know that I'm just like they are. And how do you find that balance in life? And that's one of the things that's just really important. You can have all the money in the world or all the business. It's what's important is your family, and what's important is your integrity. It's being kind to people. It's being genuine, and I try to be that way as much as I can. And I've got a lot of kids to raise and grandkids and great grandkids, and I want to be known as a good person, one that was kind.
At the end of the day, at the end of our life, they're not going to count how many dollars you made or anything like that.
No.
But when they stand up there and they read somebody delivers a eulogy, they're not going to talk anything about the business. They're going to talk about the difference and the impact that David Gabrielsen made. And that's what you're doing. You may not realize that, but you are. I mean, I've got a list of people, including the person that put us together to make this happen today, because
Mhm.
of the impact that you've made. So thank you. Thank you for all that you've done for so many. And I can't wait to walk alongside you if I can keep up with you as you continue to touch other people's lives personally and professionally. Thank you, David.
Absolutely. And Mike, thank you for your courage, and thank you for putting this type of podcasts or whatever they are. I'm not the tech guy, but
Podcast.
podcast. It takes a lot of courage to do what you do, and to arrange people, and to get them and to network them out to many people. And it's because of things like that it gives me hope, and I listen to other podcasts and your podcasts, but I will in the future. But the thing is that we all have a talent. We all have cards to share with each other. You
Mm.
have a card that I don't have, and when you give me a card, I have a fuller deck. And maybe I have a few cards that would make your deck fuller, but together we help each other. We are here on this earth to help each other. And whether it's through business or encouragement or whatever it is, we all can add to that. And we have to have money to raise kids. That's just the way it is. And we help each other do that. And at the end, we say amen, and we care, we love, and we help each other.
100%. And I know you don't know about this either, but the first time that I was at an event with Matt Labuti, You put together a dinner. They called it was not country style, it was something else. But anyway, it was a phenomenal event. Matt's wife, and this is and I know this is what you support 100%, got up there on the table and was sharing and prayed for the meal and everything else. And I looked at that and I said, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is just awesome. But that's the kind of environment that you've created, and good job. Great job, leader.
I'm really trying hard. And like I said, I do my best every day, and I'm just grateful for, the people around me and my employees. I'm grateful for my family and for good people. And I appreciate you spending time with letting me come into your world and being able to share my story, and hopefully it's helpful. And because other people have done it, that's the only reason I'm doing it too, because it's helpful. Let's talk together. Let's talk about our challenges. Let's talk about our successes. Let's make each other a better person.
Could not agree more. Well said. And we will wrap it with that. We want to help however we can. Our goal here, UPP, is impacting people's lives personally and professionally in any possible way. You have assisted us in doing that in our purpose and our mission, David. Thank you for that. And I'm going to encourage people right now with one other little thing. And by the way, DFG, I think you said Freeman, right? David Freeman, Gabrielsen, DFG at capitalpremium.net. If you want to get on David's list for his, I believe it's weekly. I have been reading that myself. It's a great piece, and he just pours from the heart, personally and professionally. It will impact your life as well, like it has mine. Thank you for that. But if this is your first time on the podcast, welcome. My name is Mike Stromsoe. I'm widely recognized as a leading author, speaker, and coach for the independent insurance agency industry. You can learn more about what we do at unstoppableprofitproducer.com. But more importantly, if you got great value out of this podcast, please go to our podcast URL, which is Unstoppable Profit Podcast, and share it with somebody else. Share it with somebody else and tell them about the impact that you just received from this podcast and David and sharing his story. And most importantly, when you go there, make sure you subscribe. It's up at the top, so you don't miss one valuable episode. And our podcast is out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, our YouTube channel, Amazon, and many other places. So please make sure you share it. Share the message that you just heard so we can continue to help other people and impact people's lives personally and professionally. Mr. Gabrielsen, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I look forward to keeping in touch with you guys, and I heard every word you said, and we'll figure out how we can just continue to help other people. And until then, take good care and continue to receive the blessings that you've earned. And as you say, just keep going.
Just keep going.
Let's keep going. All right, everybody. We will see you on the next episode. And until then, you got this. We believe in you. I'll see you in the next episode.
Perfect.
Can't get enough of the Unstoppable Profit podcast? Come join our next live 3-day boot camp in warm, beautiful San Diego. Invest in your ticket today at beunstoppablebootcamp.com. That's beunstoppablebootcamp.com.